Are you going to be on the call?
This is a regular meeting of the Mobile City Council, Wednesday, March 6th. Please stand for our invocation led by Pastor Ronald O. McCants, retired elder of the United Methodist Church, and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Most holy God, God of wisdom, God of life, God of every new day. On this first day of the Lenten season, many people are mindful, O God, of 40 days to reflect on our lives you give us, a time to replicate the sacrifice of Christ's journey into the wilderness for 40 days, a time to prepare for the day of resurrection. Merciful God, bless this city council, mayor, staff, employees, family and citizens, economically, with health care and education in a safe environment. Bless our sisters and brothers in Lee County with comfort and sustenance in the aftermath of another storm. Grant our nation's leaders with wisdoms to make decisions that are pleasing in your sight. Lord, you spoke in Matthew 25, for I was hungry and gave me something to eat. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you invited me in. I needed clothes and you clothed me. I was sick and you looked after me. I was in prison and you came to visit me. Let our fastings and abstinence, repentance of sins, almsgiving, and self-denial result in hearing your divine words. Whatever you did for the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did it for me. So Lord God, on this Ash Wednesday, let us be mindful of repentance ashes to turn our backs to sin and towards your gospel. Remember that we are dust, and to dust we shall return. Keep the words of your servant John Wesley close to our hearts. Do all the good we can, by all the means we can, in all the ways we can, in all the places we can, at all the times we can, to all the people we can, as long as ever we can. In your holy name, amen.
Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
But before we would continue, I'd ask that you would observe a moment of silence in memory of local insurance agents that have in Fresno. And I'd also ask that we also remember in our most vivid thoughts and prayers the 23 individuals who lost their lives in the tornado that occurred in Lee County. Now, we know how it is to go through natural disaster, but a disaster of that nature impacting that number of our fellow citizens is just horrendous, and we want to keep those families in our prayers, the families that will have to rebuild, start all over, not only there in Smith Station, but in just in the county in general. I have some individuals I know over in Powell County, Georgia, that have also been infected. So let's just keep everyone that's been lives touched by these tornadoes. Let's have a moment of silence in their memory. Thank you.
Roll call. Vice President Manzi.
Here.
Councilmember Richardson. Councilmember Small.
Here.
Councilmember Williams.
Here.
Councilmember Daves.
Here.
Councilmember Rich.
Here.
Councilmember Gregory.
Here.
Statement of rules.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good Good morning.
We first ask that you would silence or turn off all of your electronic devices before or upon entering council meeting. Any person desiring to address the council must sign in indicating the resolution, ordinance, appeal, or public hearing agenda item before entering the meeting. When addressing the council, the speaker must clearly state his or her name and address. Any person desiring to speak to the council on a non-agenda item must contact the city clerk's office on the Thursday before 2 o'clock preceding the Tuesday in which you'd like to speak. The subject that you want to speak the council on must be pertinent and pertain to Mobile business. Anyone who doesn't provide that notice, and if your subject matter isn't pertinent to City of Mobile business, you won't be allowed to address the council. Each speaker is given 5 minutes. A bell will sound to indicate the end of 4 minutes. That minute remains for summarizing. The second bell indicates that your time has expired. When addressing the council, we ask that there be no personal address to any individual council member. All statements are to be made to myself, who serves as chair, and any council member who wishes to speak or respond will be recognized. To maintain decorum, we ask that there be no undue applause and or public outcry. That simply won't be allowed. We thank you for your interest in local municipal government. Madam City Clerk.
Approval of minutes of February 26th.
So moved.
Oh, second?
Properly motion is second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved.
Communications from the mayor.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Seems like that we've lost a few souls from recovering from Mardi Gras, but we're glad to see the Hardy still here this morning. I think if you reflect back on Mardi Gras, you'll realize that whether it's freezing weather or raining by the bucketfuls, visitors and Mobians will turn out for Mardi Gras. So having had roughly 1 million people, or just slightly over 1 million people attend the Mardi Gras parades is, evidence of what it means to our cities. But also I'd say that it wouldn't happen that way. There wouldn't be good experiences had by the visitors and citizens if it weren't for our responders who do just a tremendous job, from the Mobile Police Department, Fire Rescue, but also the Public Works, who have to contend with all the trash, the cleanup, and so forth. So huge appreciation for all of them. So I hope you join me in giving them a big round of applause for what they do. So, Mr. Vice President, I turn it back over to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Madam City Clerk.
Adoption of the agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Properly motion and second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is adopted.
Appeals. We have a waiver of the noise ordinance on March 16th and March 17th on Dolphin Street.
So moved.
Second.
Properly motion and second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Presentation of petitions and other communications to the council. So Irene Antone.
She have a mic up there?
Yes.
Yeah, she does.
You hear me?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I am the Good Shepherd of Mobile, District 1, and Mobile. My name is Irene Antone, live at 2202 Clinton Street, Mobile, Alabama. I'm here this morning to talk about trees and other stuff, but trees is the main thing. We have water oaks, we have different kind of oak trees, and we have different laws. The tree commissioner met me some time ago from Birmingham, but I couldn't find that information that he gave me, so I'm just talking to you about the top of your head, my head. The power company, when they have to cut between the trees, they're supposed to cut with the Y, have a Y go through the trees. All trees are supposed to be about 25 feet off the sidewalk. Mr. Richardson, our mayor, councilperson, have a sidewalk from Booker T. Washington to LaFleur High School. He have a sidewalk. It's going around the trees. No trees were cut down. No trees were messed with during that time. I have had a situation where I put a request for sidewalks and all going from LaFleur to the elementary school, Holloway. 20 years ago, we stopped the city bus from going down that street because those kids have to walk home. We used to have Keep Mobile Beautiful. When that person retired, I just heard that it was named, a person was named, but we have not had any meetings about Keep Mobile Beautiful, because we went through and did trees all up and down Highway 90 and all that. On Spring Hill Avenue, you have trees lapping over. Nobody's cutting trees, moss is growing on them and everything. But somebody's concerned about the trees on 1 Street. But the only thing that I'm concerned about is trees, period. I have a tree in my yard, and it's an oak tree. I think it might have to be cut. I don't know for sure now, because my squirrels go in that hole for them to stay. And they come on my porch and they eat my dog food, go back up on the porch. But you all have to be interested in our things that use the trees as long as it's feasible. So that's what I want to tell you this morning. We have had a calendar with Keep Mobile Beautiful, telling you what to do, when to do, wherever. Also, we met every Wednesday then. All I heard, excuse me, was a lady was named something to Keep Mobile Beautiful. I have not heard from her. I haven't did anything in that light. But that's the way it is. We either move on or we move back. I would like for us to move on. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Anton.
David Preston.
My name is David Preston. I live at 4161 Winchester Drive here in Mobile, District 4, and I'm here to talk about road work patches that are done after utility companies dig up our roads. On the road that I live on, Winchester Drive, there's two perfect examples of patchwork. One is a perfect example of the way patchwork should be done, and within 50 yards of that patch, there's a perfect example of the way it shouldn't be done. The one that is perfect is level with the asphalt that was there before the patchwork was done, and since it was so long ago, the asphalt has faded and now matches the color of the old asphalt. The example that's of patchwork that's not the way it shouldn't be done is the asphalt's about an inch lower than the old asphalt that's on the road, and because the utility company had to dig up the stormwater drain that's on the side of the road, that has not been replaced yet. As a part of my job, I drive all around the city of Mobile and everybody's district. So I get a chance to see the condition of all the roads all throughout the city, especially after utility work has been done. I know I've emailed Vice President Manzi about that, and I've spoken by phone with Councilwoman Rich and my Councilman Williams. My concern is this: if that is the final patchwork that has been done for that work, especially on roads like Lafayette Street, where the CIP money has been spent to resurface that road, I consider, as a citizen of Mobile and a taxpayer of Mobile, that work to be unacceptable. Because if you drive over that patch, it is a very, very rough ride. And while it's not as bad as some areas, some patches that have not been fixed yet, it's still a bad look for our city, especially on roads that we've spent our taxpayer money repairing already. And should that patchwork, if it's the final work, should never been accepted by the engineering department, in my opinion. And so I come with a few suggestions. If first of all, the administration should look into doing an interactive map related to the utility work that's being done on our roads, with status of that utility work, like planned, started, in progress, and completed, so that the media and the citizens can go to the city website if they have a concern about a particular street and see the actual status of that road work, so that we know if it's been completed and we think that the work is subpar, we can contact you and you can look into it further. And if the city engineering department is having to accept this work as acceptable because of the way the ordinance is written, I would suggest it's time that we go back and take a look at the ordinance for road patchwork to strengthen it, to make it to where these utility companies have to go back and when they get done, leave the condition of the road as a similar condition as they found it when they started digging up the road. Thank you.
Mr. Vice President.
Thank you, Mr. Preston. Mr. Williams?
First of all, David, thanks for coming down. David reported, as he does anytime he sees something, the Winchester Road, and I think I responded in the sense that it is definitely a utility. It is not complete. It is not finalized. I think it's part of the Spire pipe replacement program. I agree with you on your idea of the website for everywhere that we can do that. I think we've done that through Build Mobile, and I think that's a good suggestion, and I'd hope that maybe in some degree we can do that. I also would say that don't let the city council go between you and progress. That 311 should be your first call always. And you do that. I know you do, David. And then let us know when 311 doesn't work, so that we can be your advocate to the administration. The ordinance that is written was done about 10 years ago, and it says that it must be returned to the same condition, or it must be as you're prescribing, where it's equal. And when they do so many patches in a certain area that they have to replace the whole street, they have to resurface the street. So I think the ordinance is good, and it's simply just a matter of knowing what is planned and what is ongoing and what is complete. And so I agree with you. And if there's a place out there that you know about, if you'll just call 311 and let me know, and I'll be your conduit.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Hayes?
Mr. Preston, thank you for being with us today. And I'm going to maybe overlap a little of what Councilman Williams said, but the council did look at the ordinance having to do with patches a couple of years ago. And we looked at it, and my recollection is the only change which we made to the ordinance was to require that the utility who made the cut and made the patch put a medallion. It's a plastic medallion in the patch, so we would know who had done the patch. Their process when they have to make a cut is to make the cut and then put a temporary patch until they finish their work, until the ground, because they dig up the ground, and so they need to let the ground settle back down before they come back and put the permanent patch in. And so I believe the photographs that you sent us, the good ones were permanent patches, and the bad one looked to me like a temporary patch, because generally the the piece of aggregate, the pieces of asphalt are chunkier than the permanent patch. We spend a lot of money repaving and rebuilding roads, and we wish that we could spend that money and then not have them cut. But the bottom line is we have a city that is very old in some places and not quite as old, but still old in other places. And if something happens underneath the ground, if someone moves in, the road's got to be cut in order to maintain the utilities to those folks that live on the road. So again, thank you very much for being with us today.
Yeah, I'm going to join my colleagues in thanking you for your advocacy. I've gotten your correspondence and ask that you continue to share that with me, because I send that over to the administration, and I'm appreciative of the responses that we get from our city engineer, Namberger, and also Shane Cumby. They've let me know that what's going on at Lafayette and on Lexington, that same process is now occurring on Lexington, where we just in the last couple of years totally researched a community, and now they come back with these awful patches. These are temporary patches, and they'll come back and do the permanent job after the required time period. But we need to know. The only way we'll know whether or not the process is working is if we have citizens like yourself who keep apprised of what you see. So please, particularly in District 2, please continue to let me know, and thank you for coming.
And that's why I couched my comments with, if these are permanent fixes, then they're not acceptable. Whereas an interactive with this road work on the city website would be a help, so where I can go and say, okay, this location, okay, it's still in progress, it's not done, but let me monitor it. So when it is completed, I can go, okay, yes, this work is fine. No, it's not. So,
yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. But Mr. Amber, if you could, I believe you indicated that you had some commentary to offer, and if you could also let us know how the change that we did implement relative to the medallion. How is that process working? Is that making a difference?
Yeah. First, let me thank y'all for being knowledgeable of the process to know and help my office field some of those calls that y'all might get first. Very much like you said, there is a temporary patch that oftentimes, if it's a water repair crew that's going out there making a repair to the water line, that crew will make a temporary asphalt repair on site then, as opposed to leaving only for another crew to come back in at a later date. So you're immediately able to use the road again, albeit sometimes it's a lumpy. But the intent is to let all that settlement take place, and then they come back in and they have restoration contractors that come in and make those final repairs after any other differential settlement might have taken place. And to get to your specific question, I think the street tags have been very, very beneficial. I mean, it does help residents and my staff, without having to go into a computer and look at something, more readily identify which utility actually made the cut. And on some streets, there can be a spire, which formerly Mobile Gas, so there can be a yellow tag, and then there can be a blue tag, and then there can be another tag, back to back. It's just most of the average citizens don't recognize how much stuff is beneath the ground there. But very helpful.
Nick, do they, excuse me, do they put a medallion in on the temporary fix as well as the permanent fix?
Yes, they're supposed to, yes. And we are working as far as the computer part of it. We're hopeful that maybe we can work to that at some point. At any given time in the city of Mobile, there are thousands of active permits. You got to think probably, 8 to 15 different franchise holders that have utilities underneath the ground. So at any given time, there's just a tremendous amount of work that's potentially out there cutting the streets. And so what's very helpful to us is when we are notified if a temporary patch has become where it's not pleasant to drive over, it's not uncommon for us to ask the utilities to go back in and and rectify it. Most of the time, the reason you don't hear a lot of those calls is because our field inspectors are catching that before it ever becomes a citizen's complaint.
Any other questions for Mr. Amber? Thank you.
Thank you. David Keo.
Mr. Keo?
K-E-O.
I don't believe
K-E-L. Ordinance is held over. 88007, deemed certain property not now needed for public or municipal purposes, and authorize the lease to Chancellor Inc., FKA Clower Electric Supply Company.
So moved.
Second.
Proper motion and second discussion. If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes.
64008, rezone property at 956 Mobile Street from R1 to B1.
So moved.
Second.
Proper motion and second, any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes.
88009, deemed property at 2407 O'Shell Road, Ashland Fire Station, not now needed for public or municipal purposes, and authorize the sale to Lafayette Land Acquisitions.
So moved.
Second.
Proper motion and second, any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes.
CIP resolutions held over. 21188, authorized contract with James H. Adams and Son Construction for the 2018 CIP citywide miscellaneous drainage repairs, Group B.
So moved.
Second.
Proper motion and second, any discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Items pass. Item passes.
Resolutions held over. 23173, accept a deed for the acquisition of property approximately 6.4 acres along Spring Hill Avenue for the 3 Mile Creek Greenway Trail project.
Move to lay over until March 26th.
Second.
It's been moved and second, any discussion?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair, if I might.
Mrs. Gregory?
This resolution is to purchase some vacant property that is next door to the Spring Hill Plaza Shopping Center, just off Spring Hill Avenue, if you know where that is. Just to explain what's going on, this property as well as another small property just back up to Spring Hill Plaza, and in planning for the 3 Mile Creek Trail, the first draft look at what the trail would be and where trailheads would be, this area would provide some space for extra parking, for restrooms and pavilions. Since the draft came out, most of you know that there were a number of listening sessions around the city, both on the east side of 65 as well as on my side, the west side of I-65, where the trail would also go. There were a lot of questions, a lot of concerns and suggestions given to our planning staff as well as to the consultants who put this plan together. In the meantime, all of those more than 100, close to 200 suggestions and questions went back to the consultants, and they have gone back to the drawing table to put together a second draft plan after we heard from everybody. We have yet to see that plan. I have met with some residents in the Springwood Drive area who their homes back up to the creek, and they had some very specific questions and concerns, as they should, about the creek and the plan. And we are listening to those, and I think when we come back with this next draft, they will see most of what they had concerns about answered. One of the things, though, that we did get some other questions about was why we needed, these 2 parcels of property if, when this plan comes back and when we do decide to do construction, we don't have a trailhead with parking and pavilions and restrooms and all that sort of thing that we had been looking at. Why would we need these properties? So that's a very good question, and I think until we go back to the planners and we see what this next draft is, there's really no reason for us to follow through and purchase these properties. So we are laying this over for a couple of weeks, and the property that the council had approved last week, which the sale of which hasn't gone through yet, we can just hold off on that until we, again, go back, speak to the planners, see what the draft is, and get with our group and discuss, and then we can move forward or not. So I just want the Springwood Drive residents to know we are certainly listening to them and understand their questions. And of course, the council and the mayor both don't want to be spending money on property that we may never need or never use. So that's what's happening with this. And I appreciate that, Mr. Vice Chair.
Absolutely. No
Vice
problem.
President.
Further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ms. Davis,
If there are no objections, I'll read the remaining together.
no objection.
01176, authorized master services agreement with Moffitt and Nichol to provide project management and grant management support for Phase 2 of the Mobile Bay Shore Habitat Conservation and Acquisition Initiative. 01190, authorized agreement with the Mobile County Commission for pickup and disposal of scrap tires and receive compensation for services. 13191, authorized change order number 1 to the contract with Robert J. Baggett for City of Mobile, Alabama Cruise Terminal Parking Deck repairs. 21192, authorized contract with Robert J. Baggett for Cooper Riverside Park, remove and reinstall floating dock in emergency only. 21193, authorized contract with Twin City Security for unarmed guard and protective services, various city facilities. 21194, authorized performance contract with Mobile Arts Council. 21195, authorized performance contract with Goodwill Easter Seals of the Gulf Coast. 21196, authorized contract amendment with McCoy and Williams for Ann Street and drainage rehabilitation. 21197, authorized contract amendment with Thompson Engineering for Airway Park Drive at Schillinger Road drainage improvements. 21198, authorized contract with Dortch Figures and Sons for nuisance abatement securing of structure 955 Maryland Street.
So moved.
Second?
Probably moved and second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Items passed.
Ordinance is being introduced for the first time, 88010.
By council rules, this ordinance will lay over 1 week.
Consent resolutions being introduced, 08199 through 6201.
Move for immediate consideration of resolutions 08199 through 6201.
Second.
Properly motion and second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
08199, approved purchase orders for the week of February 25th, 2019, 6200 and 201 are determining expenditures of discretionary funds for contribution to Regency Oaks Homeowners Association and contribution to Alabama Cooperative Extension Services, serve a public purpose, and approve payment.
So moved.
Second?
Properly motion and second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Items passed.
CIP resolutions being introduced, 21202 through 21205.
Move immediate consideration of 21204, and the remainder will lay over for 1 week according to council rules.
Second?
Properly motion and second. Any discussion?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Gregg?
On 21204, which we will vote for, that is looking at some drainage work needed at Hillsdale, specifically for the restroom and pavilion area out there. The drainage has been a problem for some time. I'm just especially grateful for the work that Kim Harden and all the crew has done. She has been out there on site looking at it with me as well as with some of the homeowners. So again, very thankful that this work is moving forward. We've got some other work to do in order to get ready for a big homecoming event that is planned for the recreation center and the grounds coming up this summer. So this is one step toward that. So again, just very grateful for this and look forward to seeing work commence.
Any further discussion?
This is on to suspend the rules here.
It's just to
Yes.
suspend the rule.
Right.
Yes, we already did.
She was justifying it.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Madam City Clerk?
21204, authorized contract with Iker Construction Company for Hillsdale Park restroom and pavilion drainage improvements.
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved and second. Any discussion?
No.
It's fun like that, the same.
Not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes.
Resolution being introduced, 01206 through 61222.
Move immediate consideration of resolution 01206, and the remainder will lay over 1 week according to council rules.
Been properly motion and second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Madam City Clerk.
01206, authorized amendment to subscription agreement with LexisNexis for subscription to Lexis Advance.
So moved.
Second.
Properly motion and second. Any discussion? All right, let's vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes.
Call for public hearings, 41223, call for public hearing to approve the application of WHDAL LLC doing business as Z-Trip for certificate of public convenience and necessity to operate a taxi cab service scheduled March 19th.
So moved.
Second.
Properly motion second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Announcements. Next week's city council meeting will be held at 10 o'clock on Thursday, March 14th. Pre-council meeting at 10 o'clock.
Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just would like to remind the citizens of District 5 that we have a community meeting scheduled Tuesday, April 2nd at Westminster Presbyterian Church, corner Sage Avenue and Airport Boulevard. It'll start at 6 o'clock. Invited guests are Mayor Stimson, Police Chief Batiste, and Interim Public Works Director Peavy. Again, that's April 2nd, Tuesday, April 2nd, 6 o'clock p.m. Westminster Presbyterian Church, corner of Sage and Airport. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Small.
Thank you, Vice President Manzi. I would like to say congratulations to Public Works and also to Public Safety for, helping this be a great Mardi Gras season. Also to congratulate all the Mystic Societies that came together to put a great show on for the million-plus people that attended Mardi Gras this year. Mobile, the birthplace of Mardi Gras. Again, it was a very successful Mardi Gras season. It was amazing to see the people out there enjoying themselves. That's what we're here to do in Mobile. We were born to celebrate. And this past couple of weeks we celebrated right here in Mobile, Alabama. Since Mardi Gras is over with, today we are observing Ash Wednesday, which is the season, and which is coming up to Easter. And that means that our annual Easter egg hunt is coming up shortly. I will announce next week the date and time and place of the District 3 annual Easter egg hunt. Again, we'll announce that on next week. Also, citizens of District 3, please mark your calendars for the 20th of March. We will be having our first district meeting of the year, which will be held at the Gilliard Elementary School at 6 o'clock p.m. We have invited guests, Mr. Chris Curry of the Mobile Airport Authority, Ms. Michelle Herter from Airbus FlightWorks, and also city and state officials has been invited to attend this meeting on the 26th of March at 6 o'clock p.m. at the Gilliard Elementary School. Thank you, Vice President.
Yes, sir. Mr. Small. Rich?
Thank you very much. Again, I would like to thank our public safety personnel and Public Works for their diligence and dedication to our city and our big street party where we are the birthplace of Mardi Gras. I like to always get that in to remind New Orleans we started it and we know how to do it, and they did a fine job. And so I thank them for their hard work. We already said and had a moment of silence for the Lee County victims and for the people that have to rebuild their lives there in that area. And VOA on Hillcrest, the Volunteers of America, is having a collection of donations, monetary and certain items that they're looking. You can go to their website, which is voase.org. They are at 1204 Hillcrest Road. Their phone number is 251-338-1297 if you have questions. I'm sure they'll be happy to work with you and accept your donations. I also know that our local Red Cross is also doing the same. I'm sorry I don't have those particulars, just that the Volunteers of America is in the district and thought it would be convenient for citizens that live in the area. Thank them for their outreach, and I wish everybody Godspeed with their situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Gregory.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I too want to join my colleagues in thanking all of our public works employees and public safety employees for their hard work during Mardi Gras. It truly is tremendous job that they do. This morning coming into work, we saw them all out picking up barricades. It's just amazing how they've gotten this down to a science and get their work done so quickly and so well. Again, a big thank you to everyone who was involved in putting on this huge party for us. As I mentioned earlier, I met with the Springwood Drive area residents and those who live in adjoining neighborhoods. I want to thank Russell and Colleen Blackwell for hosting us in their front yard, for taking care of putting emails together and signing everybody up so that we can all stay in touch, and that I get one email rather than a number of emails from everybody in the neighborhood, and that really helps us with communication. So thank you very much to everyone who came out. So this afternoon, I'll be doing a parks tour with our new Parks and Recreation Director. We will look at the parks, talk about improvements that need to be made, as well as programming ideas for the various parks, and I really appreciate that effort that they are doing. This Saturday, if you haven't had enough Mardi Gras, you have yet another chance in Mobile Terrace. We will be doing the annual motorcade through the streets of Mobile Terrace. It begins at 3 o'clock. We will be lining up at 2 o'clock, and we have the pink fire engine scheduled for the parade this year, which ought to be a big draw. So thanks to everyone for putting that together, and I look forward to seeing everybody in Mobile Terrace on Saturday. The district that is coming up, you may remember I had to move the date. It will be Thursday, March 28th at the Mobile Botanical Gardens. We will be sending out postcards very soon and invitations to our guest speakers. Mayor, hopefully you can come, as well as Shayla, Nick, Chief Batiste, and John Peavy to hit some of the main areas that we need to talk about, which would be, of course, Ziegler widening is always a very important one. So Nick will be there for that, and to talk about CIP. The 3 Mile Creek is big. Always garbage, trash, crime, and what we can do to keep everybody safe. Those are always our major topics. So that will be at the Mobile Botanical Gardens coming up on March 28th. And resurfacing has started in the district. We're all very excited about that. Of course, we had to wait for Spire to finish their ongoing project, so that resurfacing is looking really, really good. I'm happy to see that. Thanks to everyone for making that happen. That's all for now. I think that's plenty. Look forward to touring the parks this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Williams.
No, thank you.
On March the 19th, I will be hosting a meeting in conjunction with ALDOT at the Union Baptist Church concerning the proposed Mobile River Bridge. In April sometime, we'll also hold a meeting in the Down the Bay area. These meetings are being held at the request of ALDOT so that we can make certain that we procure the necessary feedback from both of these impacted communities as relates to the proposed Mobile River Bridge. Citizens should be receiving some literature, a notice in both communities about these planned meetings. We ask that we would come out and share your feedback so that that feedback can be built into the plan as it relates to the bridge. I want to thank again our first responders, that include our police, our fire departments, our public works employees who just work so hard in making certain that the downtown area is clean in a very expedient manner after all of the festivities. And you can tell that they take pride in how quickly they are able to bring things back to normalcy, and the citizens that live in the downtown area are so appreciative of that, because just imagine how it would look if it just lingered. They really play an awesome job. Our public safety first responders do an outstanding job making certain that we have the safest Mardi Gras that we can. And I'm happy to hear from the director the positive numbers as it relates to this year's celebration. Well over 1 million people in the downtown area celebrating, and to have had the few number of emergency situation, and it's just remarkable. And a lot of that, the yeoman's load of that, is because of our first responders and because of our public safety, public service employees. So again, thank you. Our citizens of District 2, whose garbage was not picked up, I've been advised by our interim public safety director to let you know to leave the garbage out. Don't take it back in, leave it out. And as they complete other routes, they will double back and get the garbage that was not, that will not be picked up today. Any further announcements from the administration? If not, do I hear a motion? So moved. Second. Probably motion is second, and we will adjourn. Any discussion? All in favor? Meeting adjourned.